to backtrack, actually, you want to mention Lucy Woodward songs with unusual roots. Let's talk about, and you want to talk about Hot and Bothered, the song itself. What's the story with that title track?
So Hot and Bothered, this was my grandmother used to sing this Yiddish lullaby to me as a baby. She sang it to my mother, she sang it to my uncle, she sang it to my brother, and it kind of put us to sleep. She'd hold us in her arms and she would go, I la Lulu Davy, I la Lulu Davy, I la Lulu, I la Lulu, I la Lulu Davy. And then she'd go to the next kid and sing their name. And, so my grandmother did that. And that's just when, it's just lodged in your brain. So 20-something years later, I said, I'm going to write a sex song to this because it's so sultry. So she passed on before I got to actually finish the song.
Good call.
Yeah, but she'd be proud. She'd be cool. She'd be cool with it. But that's what it turned into. So it's actually my Yiddish, people call it the grandma song or the Yiddish grandmother song. And,
I'm telling you, there's only 4 CDs, but there's even more Easter eggs we don't even know about yet. But yeah, wow, that's pretty crazy. Well, I started to listen to some more music, and you've mentioned a Snarky Puppy. The song I want to play is called Too Hot to Last. Mm-hmm. Henry Hay is a co-producer on this album. Also Michael League, who's a band leader of the Grammy Award-winning ensemble Snarky Puppy. We mentioned your earlier releases being on Verve and Atlantic. This new one is on the Ground Up label. That's kind of a funny little pun, Ground Up. Mm-hmm. And Ground Up.
That's actually Michael League's label. So he's had a label for a long time. Yeah,
that's why I mentioned it. Yeah. So how did you get connected with that group? It seems to be a significant development in your career, because I'm unusual that I came to you via Don Brydup, but I think a lot of people who didn't know you just through other methods might have come to you through your connection with Snarky Puppy.
Yeah. Well, Michael League was a bass player in my band for a little while in 2011, and I was doing these very small kind of jump in the car. Michael and Henry and I, we would just go out as a trio and do shows on the East Coast, and just I had just put out the Verve record. I didn't have any budget to really go bring a whole band out, so I was going out as just us as a trio, and a lot of these songs started rearranging themselves. I couldn't bring out a big band, so we took all these songs from the Verve record and just made them very small arrangements. And I learned so much about what I was able to do as a singer, as sort of like the third instrument. And so we did a couple weeks of that on and off. And then Mike said, come and jump up on stage. We do this thing, Snarky Puppy, we do this residency. We have a residency at Rockwood Music Hall in New York City, and we call it Family Dinner. And we play at midnight, and we basically invite our friends who are singers to come up and sit in, give us your song. We will completely destroy it and turn it inside out, and you will just get up on stage and sing it. If you're lucky, you'll get a sound check. So the singer has to come, like, hand over a song, basically just get up there, and the rest is in God's hands, and you just kind of like go with the flow of what they do. So they took one of my songs, I think it was Ragdoll, which was on my Verve. Yeah, they took Ragdoll and they did that. And it was so funky and so out there and so deep. The groove with the pocket was so deep. I found love with their music, what they did to my set, my song. But then, of course, I stayed for the rest of their set. And I was floored. Mike was like, oh, I just got this little band, Snarky Puppy, and we're doing this gig and this festival, and we, it's like 4 guys to a room, hotel room, like they all just were doing it, Red Roof Inn, Motel 6 style, and they've been doing that since college, for the previous 8 years or so, sleeping on floors and doing it the hard way. And so they said, oh, we got this band, we have this thing called, Family Dinner, come up and do it. And so I sang that and completely fell in love with their music. I went to open up for them for a few shows, and they were my backing band. And then we just started, the family, it was family. It was like instant family. And so I signed to Mike's label, Ground Up, this past year, and they just signed to Universal, so they have a distribution deal in Universal, which is why I'm actually technically back on Verve again, strangely. And they're so artist-friendly, the artists that they have there. Some of them have, the members of Snarky Puppy have their own solo records. Bill Lawrence, amazing keyboard player, amazing. Corey Henry, who's a phenomenal organ player. A couple of other guys. They all put out their own records, and they have a couple of singers, Michelle Willis, and then there's me, another girl named Magda, who's this Greek phenomenon. And so I'm probably the most pop artist on their label because they're all pretty jazzy or pretty funky, and but it's definitely a family, and we go out and do tours, and I open up for them, and they're doing it the right way, and they've worked really hard. And won 2 Grammys.
And another one of those bands not afraid to try things. They're not going to be pigeonholed. We're only funk, we're only jazz, we're only this and that. So what I hear you saying when you say Michael was a bass player in my band and they were my backing band, so you don't owe it all to him. He owes it all to you, is what I hear you saying.
No, not at all. He did some gigs with me, but then they were already well established, and I know. It's just I have to be so clear. No, I learned so much about my own voice and being with them, like not even realizing music could be made like that.
The song Too Hot to Last, you and Michael League are the only writers on that one, right?
Yeah, he actually presented that song to me. I kind of finished it off, but he wrote that song, and said, hey, what do you think about this idea? I've been writing it with you in mind. And I brought up the family dinner stuff because they filmed it one concert, and they brought on 8 singers, and that was the record that won. Layla Hathaway came on and she sang the song Something. Yeah. And she destroyed it, and she does this crazy Tuvan throat singing thing at the end of the song during her scatting, and that earned them a Grammy for that song off that record. So it was an incredible time. It took off their whole career, went to another level. But that was Family Dinner, basically on a bigger scale. Yeah. So that was volume 1. They just put out volume 2 a few months ago, which is phenomenal. But by the time it came to my record, I still wanted to record Too Hot to Last, which I did on Family Dinner volume 1. And I still wanted to record it for my record. So Henry came in and said, we couldn't really redo the snarky version. It was what it was. And Henry came in and said, I have this idea. I want to do all trombone, like a 12 trombone choir and some, just low end brass. And he came in with this whole arrangement. Yeah. So it's very heavy and funeral march and plotting, but it's just leaves a lot of space for me as this like kind of very feminine vocalist to lay over the top of that. And that's what I love, the dichotomy of that.
You can't miss the brass on this recording. I mean, and before we even spoke, when I first heard it, my notes to myself, I wrote that the deep trombone harmony in the intro almost has like a bagpipe feel to it.
Yeah. It's like a drone. Yeah, totally.
Well, I think we should listen to this epic. I do want to mention there is a video of you performing with them. Is this the version we have now, or is it the earlier version, that the video with you guys together?
So that is the Snarky Puppy Family Dinner Volume 1. That's
what I thought. It has to be, yeah.
Yes.
Okay, well, I like them both.
Thank you.
From Till They Bang on the Door, here's the epic Michael League, Lucy Woodward, dual composition, Too Hot to Last. Well, I think we can all agree that that's pretty epic recording. And it's always nice to hear, people just going for it like that. There are two very brief tracks on the album which are labeled as interludes. One's called Hush, the other is Afterglow. They're very short. So what purpose do those serve in your mind?
Oh, I've always wanted to do interludes. I love records with interludes. I think it's so hard to, you make a record and you have, okay, I have 12 songs that I'm going to put on this record. You've probably written 50 to get there. And then what connects them all? And sometimes they're connected and, it's all about the song, so they should speak for themselves. And sometimes you just want to put a little angel dust in between them to kind of connect one idea to the other. That was really all I had in mind. And I always wanted to do vocal interludes. And I've never had the chance ever to do that. And I said, I'm just going to just do it. I mean, it was such an simple idea.
I'm not sure we want to call it angel dust, though.
Maybe you can call it whatever you want.
Fairy dust, a little. Yeah, because we create the wrong idea here. Oh, we're leaving that in. Yes, we are.
Definitely leaving that in. Absolutely.
Speaking of that, I want to talk a little about some of your side projects. You alluded to it earlier, The Goods, which you describe in your liner notes as your potty mouth 40s girl group.
Mm-hmm.
and I happen to know that when you say that isn't off the record. It's actually in some of the songs.
Yes. I mean, we are super, super potty mouth people. And we need an outlet, we need this outlet. So we're Michelle Lewis and Holly Palmer and we have this girl group. We just wrote a musical. We're about to start recording our Christmas EP because it's that time of year, summer, when you start thinking about Christmas. That came up. Michelle Lewis and I had written a lot of songs on the Verve record because we did a lot of, we switched, did a lot of jazz, swing band, stuff in college, and we both came from a little bit of that background. So we did the Verve record, but then we still had these other songs. Let's just have fun. And we ended up at a party together singing, and Holly jumped up and sang with us, and it was just so easy and it gelled so fast. Let's write some funny songs. Let's write comedy. And our goal every song was to sit around the table and make each other laugh and try to top each other. We would just have these 3-hour writing sessions just laughing and swearing and making it sound very, very, very goody two shoes.
Well, one thing I like about The Goods is, between Snarky Puppy and Monkey House, it's nice to know that it's not a requirement that bands have an animal in their name. You'll still work with people if they don't have puppies and monkeys. They're still good. Actually, that should be the name of The Goods, full-length album, Puppies and Monkeys.
Puppies and Monkeys. Oh, I love it.
We talked a little bit about Rod Stewart. I mean, when Rusty Anderson was here, his boss, Paul McCartney, still rocking up in his 70s. And we talked about John Anderson and Robin Trower and this whole generation of guys. And Rod is McCartney's peer. I know you've worked with Rod Stewart for several years now, meaning, it must be a mutually satisfactory situation for both of you. He wants you to keep coming back and you want to keep coming back. And I'd ask you the choreography question because I'd seen a bunch of these sort of handheld fan videos that you get from one person in the 7th row who has that particular vantage.
Yeah.
And I saw you guys. It wasn't just dance how you feel. I mean, it was choreographed. And you mentioned having to learn all that material. So what exactly does that gig involve? I mean, do you guys sing on every song or do you come and go or what's?
Oh my God, it's such an incredible gig. So that gig, there are a couple of songs that we don't sing on. For 3 years, we never sang on. He does I'd Rather Go Blind. And then this year he said, come on, sing some ooze with me. And then we came up with a whole little Aretha sort of, Dr. Feelgood kind of vibe, Slightly Supremes. And so, minimal choreography. But those are fun because we're actually just coming up with parts like their horn parts, just kind of padded things. But Gasoline Alley for a while, he did that by himself, and then we started singing it with him, which is my favorite Rod Stewart song. He doesn't do it all the time, but I just love all that old early Rod Stewart and Faces stuff. And so there are plenty of songs. We don't sing on Maggie May, which is the song to do, but there are no backgrounds on it. And some songs you just don't need backgrounds on. It doesn't mean it's going to make the song any better to have backgrounds on it, but we have such a good time. I mean, he's such an incredible performer. And
does he still do handbags and glad rags?
Once in a while. That's also another one in the acoustic set we do that. Yeah.
Olivia Dabo's dad wrote that song.
Oh wow! Okay, right. That's right.
I saw Rod Stewart in concert in the 80s. I used to play in rock clubs all the time. One of the bartenders invited me to go, and Jeff Beck was with him at the time. It was that Infatuation was the hit. And I guess, so I wanted to go to see Jeff Beck. She wanted to go to see Rod Stewart. So we went together. As we're walking into, I think it was Cal Expo in Sacramento. As we're walking in, the word is just spreading through the crowd. Jeff Beck's not there. He didn't show up he just blew it off. And so if you want your money back, you can have your money back. So she looked at me like, what do you want to do? Because she knew I was there for him. And I didn't want her to not be able to see the show. So I said, all right, let's go in. I don't remember Rod having any background singers at that gig. I remember he had like a sax player, and it was a different kind of thing. It was a good show. I mean, he's a great entertainer, and the music was good. And I would have liked to see. I guess Jeff's complaint was there wasn't enough him in it, and I don't mean that in an egotistical way. I think it's he wasn't called on very much, and he's even without a vocalist, he's used to carrying the whole show all night himself. So I guess he didn't feel like there was enough for him to do. My feeling, without being Jeff Beck bashing, maybe he make that decision a little sooner than an hour before a gig that people bought tickets for.
Yeah, that was probably a long history there. But also the sound of the 80s is such a different sound, and all the Infatuation, there's such a different sound at that time. And now his tours have been basically he's put out 2 records in the last few years, and which I had like total pleasure and honor to sing backgrounds on those too. And but then he goes back to Faces stuff throughout the 80s, the 90s. We do Forever Young, we do Maggie May, we do there's so many songs, so he's covering so much, but there's so much material to pull from. It's like you're spoiled by goodness. So the 80s was a different time.
Well, even in the 80s, he was doing 70s stuff. He was doing Hot Legs and Tonight's the Night and his 70s, which was the stuff I enjoyed more. Yeah, he's one of those guys who got sucked into the early days of MTV, do a video kind of thing. And it was also steered in musical directions that we might consider regrettable. But hey, he weathered it. He is an icon.
He's rocking.
I see you've also worked with Pink Martini. Is this a situation where the visibility you get from one gig leads directly to another gig?
No, because it's such a different world. I mean, I
was wondering,
they're so special. I don't even remember how I know. My friend Dave Egger, he's a cellist, incredible artist and cellist. And he recommended me for that gig because their singer, China Forbes, the main singer for 20 years from the beginning, she had to get a vocal surgery where her nodes or polyps had to be taken out. So they had an emergency situation of we need a sub on this tour. Yeah. So again, it was another thing of you have 5 days to learn this material and just learn the English songs. It's fine because their niche is that they sing in all sorts of languages. Yeah. So I had kind of a semi Skype audition / meeting with Thomas Lauderdale, the band leader and creator, and I sang him some of the ones that I said, this is what I sound like singing this. I was doing things a cappella, and he goes, great, let's do it. Your first gig is basically Montreal Jazz Fest, and which I'd never been to, and I'd never sung at any jazz fest. And so they said, here's some money, go get yourself a couple of gowns or dresses. And that's what I just studied this music for the next 5 days. And I was locked up in my room. Then he said, I need you to sing this song in Croatian. And there's another song you have to sing in Japanese. There's another song in Turkish, and then one final one in Spanish. And if you have time, can you do the French one? So, originally he's like, don't worry, you're going to be fine. It's going to be all in English. And then
he knew what he was doing. He knew
He
knew from the beginning you were going to be singing Croatian. You didn't want to scare her away.
And so, again, that whole challenge thing came up, and I was like, wow, my mom, who's a musicologist, and she's so good with languages because she's an opera singer, we looked up dialects, and we looked up meanings of words, and, you can't, some of them, they would take an old theme song from, like, the 70s from some random country and make a new song out of it. They would do the wildest, wackiest things, but it's just, they kind of transport you out of whatever world you live in, and they put you in this time capsule, and it could be like, Beijing, 1950, whatever. And so they just put you in this space in your head, and it's kind of partial fantasy. And so it was such a challenging gig. It's probably the most fun gig I've ever had in my life, and the most challenging.
You come across a lot of challenges, I can tell. I'm going to be so bold as to make a suggestion. I think that Pink Martini should have you do a tribute to Leonard Bernstein, and they should call the album Woodward and Bernstein.
Ah,
Because who doesn't enjoy a good Watergate reference?
I love it.
Everybody gets in the door and then like, what is this now?
Singing in Chinese, yeah.
It's funny because I think of people like Julio Iglesias, who he had to sing songs phonetically in English because he was a huge star in Spanish speaking world, and then didn't really speak English, so he had to phonetically get it and tried to break. He never really quite caught on, but you see that kind of.
I know. The other day I was driving and I heard Nat King Cole singing "Quizás, Quizás, Quizás," and I had to do that with Pink Martini, and I did it in English mainly, but then I think I did the last verse and bridge in Spanish, and so. I love Nat King Cole. I love his records. I love everything about his voice. And I could tell a little bit there was, que siempre es pregundo. And there was no accent. There was no, someone didn't work with him hard enough. To let's get those O's, or let's roll those R's a little more. You can hear that somebody said,
yeah.
I'm only suggesting this. I don't know this. His Spanish could be his native tongue for all I know, but you could just tell that, somebody said, let's sell Spanish records in Spanish, Nat. And the accent, that's why I was so scared to sing a song in Quebec in French. I was terrified. And I'd never sung in French before because everybody, especially in this country, you grew up learning French or Spanish. A lot of people go Spanish, but a lot of people know French. So I was terrified.
Yeah, don't blame me, because French-speaking people are the ones who are going to give you the tisk, tisk, tisk clucking of the tongue sooner than anybody else. I also love Nat King Cole, and I've heard a lot of his stuff, the common stuff and the rare stuff. Like O Tannenbaum, he sings it in the original German and stuff.
Cool.
Now, we didn't talk about or play every single track on the new album. I want to let people enjoy some of the discovery process for themselves. I think we've given us a nice chunk of Lucy here. If you're not intrigued about her music and her career by now, please. We do have one more to listen to and another video I want to talk about, but I do want to mention LucyWoodward.com for a couple reasons. There's information about the music. A lot of your videos are compiled there, and also tour dates, because you do get around with these various connections with these various artists you work with. I spent a lot of time in Los Angeles. I'm in Arizona. I was looking at some of your upcoming ones, and I'm going to try and hit one of them at some point. I'm more likely to catch you in Vegas than Germany.
Yes.
But yeah, LucyWoodward.com. Check that out. For all the usual reasons, and Woodward is WOODWARD. I kind of stumble over that because when I lived in Germany, I knew some people whose last name was Woodard, which didn't have the second W. So I want to make sure I didn't.
Thank you.
Through this whole thing without calling you Lucy Woodard.
Thank you. No, a lot of people call me Woodard. I'm like, where? There's a W there. What are you doing?
Woodward is a better name. I like Woodward better, but it's not the one I knew. Well, the song title for this last one contains the word histrionics, and that's an interesting word because I think we all know and understand what it means, but I don't think it's a word most of us use very often. And when you do, there's a tendency to add "without all your" in front of it. Like, can we please try that again? Without all your histrionics. I went and looked it up, and it said exaggerated dramatic behavior designed to attract attention.
I'm going to look up the meaning. I'm going to see. It's hilarious. I always knew what it meant, but I've never really.
How would you actually literally define histrionics? You think of people just in a frenzy.
Yeah, frenzy.
I like all those words. Exaggerated, dramatic behavior designed to attract attention.
That's so funny. And normally it's spoken. Normally people say that about women. You don't actually hear people talking about a man like that. So it's clearly about a guy who you can't quite, grasp him. He's just off to the next thing. And
right. I didn't say it, but the full title is "Kiss Me, Mr. Histrionics."
Yes. Come back to me. Let's just come back to me. That's what. Yeah. So, but normally people use that word and talking about.
Right. You mentioned that your brother directed some of the earlier videos. He directed this one. What's the location where this was shot?
I'm supposed to really keep it a secret.
The reason I ask is, it looks very industrial. It looks like, a big oil tank or something. But basically,
it is.
The theme of the video, it's a very economical usage of a staircase. It has a very Chutes and Ladders kind of vibe. But and more dancing and more trombones. All of this you come to expect from Lucy Woodward.
That's actually one tank with one staircase, a ladder wrapping around the tank. And so we took full advantage of that. And then my brother did all the rest in post.
Yeah, he used CGI to make it look like a whole city, like a whole landscape. Yeah. I figured out the trick, but I still appreciated it.
Yeah.
I do want to close on that song. It's really energetic, upbeat, crazy kind of histrionic kind of song to go out on. But I do want to mention people check out that video. Check out the fruit themed blues with the banana slide, which would be like I say. And you know, if you're not going to go, you should go to Lucy Woodward where the videos are there. But if some of the ones aren't there, you're all over YouTube. And in fact, a lot of really cool live performances on there. Because that's really the two things, and some interviews. But basically, it's the official ones that you made, and then there's probably some lyric videos or some of the ones people put up where they're just your album cover and they just stream your song or whatever.
Right, yeah.
There are a lot of, I didn't get a chance to see a lot of them, but I saw a few of them, you know, and you can spend hours and hours watching them all.
Oh, thank you very much. I haven't even seen them all. I always forget about those little video ones where you have like a fan who puts up lyric. Right. You know, they're good too. I mean, I find videos just like that. Sometimes just want to hear the song and read what the lyric is, and they're very useful. I also want to mention this other video that I just put up. It's sort of the EPK, electronic press kit, of just a little 3-minute behind-the-scenes little documentary of the making of this record, because I know we touched on a lot of records, which is, grow as an artist, but the real meaning behind this record comes out of this mini, I'm going to call it a mini documentary, little behind-the-scenes, and it's very fun, and you see us in the studio and on the road and live and rehearsing, and so they're talking about the songs a little bit. So that's the newest thing we put up. So,
and I also want to suggest people that are on Facebook go find Lucy Woodward on Facebook, because you have a lot of content you put up of like this exact type of thing, a rehearsal or this or that, or silly things or live stream or what have you. There's a lot of stuff for your fans to enjoy. Well, Lucy, on behalf of my listeners and myself, I want to thank you for sharing your stories and your insights and your awesome music with us. I mean, you're still a youngster by our standards, so I hope to have you back on the show many more times speaking about many more albums.
Thank you so much for having me. It was really fun. You did your work. You did your research. Thank you for that. I really appreciate that.
I want to thank Don Breitup for steering me in Lucy's direction. Thanks also to Tom Bowers for engineering and editing the podcast. Thank you for listening. And now, without any further histrionics, here's one more great track for you to listen to till they bang on your door. So long, everybody.
Bye.
Kiss me, Mr. Histrionics. I know you will. I know your way. Kiss me, Mr. Histrionics. I know you will. I know your way. Don't cry. A little trouble goes a long way. So kiss me, Mr. Histrionics. I know you will. I know your way. Spilled milk in a honey jar, looking for attention. Looks kill. I wanna catch a spark. Fire up your engine. City can sleep, get off your feet. We could be dancing. Run with the bulls, fall with the fools, taking the chances. Kiss me, Mr. Histrionics. I know you will. I know your way. Kiss me, Mr. Histrionics. I know you will. I know your way. Don't cry. Don't cry. A little trouble goes a long way. So kiss me, Mr. Histrionics. I know you will. I know your way. Come back. I'm ready for you. A backbone machete. All black. I'm ready for blue. Oh, this could get messy.